Welcome everyone. Today we're going to do a bit of a cozier video, which I feel like I haven't done in a while. We're going to talk about decks. I'm going to show you 10 decks of my collection. Actually, it's a bit more, maybe 11 or 12, because I'm doing the Tarot Shelf Superstars tag by Amethyst Ascension. I will link all the information about the tag down below. I would love if you also make a video about it. And I'm really happy to kind of get back into this little tag bubble because I've been very focused on my own stuff and I haven't really done a lot of the community tags or anything in the past few years. And now I just kind of feel like I have this back to the roots kind of moment where I just want to spark some joy, talk about tarot, not about serious topics all the time. Usually I talk about the energies going around, how we can deal with the energies that surround us, with the world, everything that is happening. How can we as ourselves make a contribution to make it a better place and to build a new future? And like in a spiritual way, in a tarot way. And I just want to do something a little bit more chill today. And I'm ready for it. So I have a tea, I have a chamomile tea. I'm going to get into a comfortable position. And I am telling you to do the same. Get a tea or a coffee or whatever you like. Get in a comfortable position and we will talk about it. So this tag is just for tarot cards, not for oracle cards, as Amethyst Ascension mentioned. So I'm going to focus on tarot decks today. I feel like I was choosing these decks and I saw so many treasures that I want to show you, but I can't put all of them in this video. So this is just going to be like 10 or 11 decks that I really love and that really give me good vibes and that fit with the questions that Amethyst Ascension posed. And I'm really looking forward to it. So let's take a sip and get started, because the first question is, what is your current tarot reading superstar, your personal reading superstar that you use for most of your own personal readings? That changes for me maybe like once every couple of months. Also depends on whether I'm getting a new deck that I'm really excited about. And it's just the one that you reach for again and again. That's the explanation. My ride or die right now. And I have to make an honorable mention to the Tarot Mucha, because I know many of you who watch my channel will know that this is like my go-to deck when it comes to readings most of the time. However, in recent times, I have sort of started to get into another deck, which I will show in a second. But the Tarot Mucha is just, it will always be my ride or die, because it's the basic rider weight that I love the most, because it has this style inspired by Alphonse Mucha, who was an Art Nouveau artist. And Art Nouveau is one of my favorite art styles. If you didn't know, it also inspired a lot of anime like Sailor Moon. And the aesthetics that go into that have been inspired by Art Nouveau and by Alphonse Mucha in specific. When I learned that, I was like, now everything makes sense, because I loved Sailor Moon as a kid. I was born in 1992, so Sailor Moon was like the show that I watched on TV. And not all of these pictures will make you think of it, but some of them you're like, yep, that definitely gives Sailor Moon vibes in some ways. So that is my, or it has been my ride or die for like 5 years now. But recently I got the Ethereal Visions Tarot. And I know this is so basic. That's why I didn't get it for so many years, because I was like, it's one of the bestseller decks. It is quite affordable. A lot of people use it. And I just didn't want to be that tarot reader who uses it. I was like, fuck it. I can be a basic bitch as well. Nobody cares. So that's why eventually I got it and I just love it. Let me show you some of the cards. It is also in this Art Nouveau style, but as you can see, it also has gilded I was going to say gilded edges. It does not have gilded edges unless you have like a special edition, but it has gilded parts in the cards. And I just feel like, sorry, I just feel like this deck, just because the cards kind of seem bigger than other decks, let me compare. This is the Mucha, and this is, it's just slightly bigger, but sometimes I feel like the bigger the card, the more clear the messages or the more intense the messages. Does anyone else feel like that? Is that weird? And when I bought this, I accidentally got the normal version that has only white people, unfortunately. I also have the Luna version, which has more diversity in it, but it's also a lot darker. And I keep reaching for this deck when I want like light, easy vibes. So with the Luna deck, I often feel like it's giving darkness. And I don't have any issue with darkness, but the lightness of this deck, like the brightness, I just like it for my readings very often. So that's why I've been reaching for this so much, whether it's my personal readings, whether it's client readings. I feel like the ethereal visions gives you like really clear messages, very clear statements about what you need, what is going on, what is happening. That's why it is my go-to right now, because it just speaks in clear sentences for me, and I love when a tarot deck does that. And for a long time, that was the Tarot Mucha for me, but now I have the Ethereal Vision as well to go back to. Right now, my ride or die. Let's talk about the second deck, which is your superstar for best guidebook. The deck whose guidebook deserves a standing ovation. And I have to say, it is the Tarot of the Woodland Wardens. Because let me show you. The thing is, I have a lot of decks. And when I purchase a new deck, well, this one was actually gifted to me by my partner, but if I purchase a deck, it needs to have some sort of special saying to it, you know? Something needs to be different about it than a normal tarot deck. And with the Tarot of the Woodland Wardens, you have animals in every single card. Let me show you. Every single card is the usual Rider-Waite-Smith naming, but then an animal that goes on it. And when I got this deck, I was excited because I do not know much about animal symbolism. I know some things, but not that much. Maybe you're in the same boat with me. Do you know a lot about animal symbolism? I do not. At least not in such specifics. Like, okay, a snake. You know, snakes are easy. The toxic is the antidote. The venom is the antidote. They shed their skin. They are a symbol of transformation. But what about honey bears? What is the spiritual meaning of a honey bear, or the cultural meaning of it, or the fox? And the guidebook delivered on what I wanted, because it does not only explain the card, but it also explains about what the cultural meaning of that animal is. For example, here we have the star card, very fittingly with an ibis. Do you say it like that in or because in German we say ibis, but I think in English you say ibis. And you know, the ibis, we also know as tarot readers, it's in the star card in the background. It's a symbol for Thoth. But just reading that again in this book is really helpful. Or, you know, there's one praying mantis. I was like, what the hell is the meaning of a praying mantis in cultures? I did not know that. And it's so beautiful to learn these things as you are drawing the cards. Let me see if I can find the mantis, because I found that one so interesting. But I'm probably not going to be able to right now. But there's such a variety of, there's hedgehogs, there's foxes, there's armadillos, you know, and just learning. I love this. That is actually my favorite card. The Nine of Swords is a little moth having nightmares. Can you believe it? Yeah. So I think for some of them, it just explains the meaning of the cards, but for a lot, it gives context on the cultural meanings of the cards. And I think that's the best thing a deck can do overall. It just widens your knowledge. It's not just about tarot necessarily, it also teaches you about symbols that you just did not know anything about. And that's what you get with the Tarot of the Woodland Wardens. I will do an unboxing of this one. I filmed it already, but the quality I'm not so happy with, but maybe I will just upload it anyway. Let me know if I should just upload it anyways, even though the quality isn't the best. All right, so let's talk about the third deck. I'm kind of cleaning as I go. That's why I'm rummaging so much over here. I hope that doesn't bother you. But you know that like after you film a video of 10 decks, you have so much stuff lying around. And I just want to kind of clean as I go. Otherwise, I'm going to go insane after I'm done filming this, having to clean everything. All right. So, number three is your current favorite witchiest superstar, the one that feels like candle, smoke, ritual, and whispered spells. And I have to say, for me, it's the Harmony Tarot. It's not really an intensely witchy deck, but for me, it is because it connects me to nature. And a lot of my witchcraft has to do, a lot of my, connection to the universe, to everything around me has to do with nature logically. And I feel like this deck, look at the first card over here, the fairy ring. How cute is that? I know it's not necessarily a traditional tarot deck, but it's supposed to be. It has 22 major arcana. It is called a tarot deck, but the names are pretty different. Um, then you have the crow. It just feels witchy to me because also I think if you know Harmony Nice, the creator of this deck, she was kind of the superstar of Wiccan YouTube way back when. It's been quite a few years now. And when I first got into witchcraft, of course, I got into it through Wicca, like many, many people. I'm not Wiccan now, but the vibe that it gives me, this whole naturey, witchy vibe, it just makes me so, so happy and makes me feel so tuned in, honestly, if you just look at these cards. And I feel like they are very gentle because witchcraft doesn't always have to be super serious, super intense. It can also just be like a gentle reminder of things, a gentle little nudge in the right direction. And that's exactly what the Harmony Nice Tarot feels like. And I just love the design, if you just look at the packaging, if you look at the little book, which is quite thick actually, it just has this quality of gentleness, of nature, and of tuning you into natural rhythms rather than telling you everything you're doing wrong, maybe, or everything that is going wrong in your life. It's a deck that's like gently nudging you in the right direction. And that feels like very positive, witchy vibes to me. I love it. All right. Now, the fourth one, interestingly, is your superstar for past life work. When it comes to that, I don't do a lot of past life work, honestly. And yet, I used to. I used to do a lot of inner child work. I used to do a lot of past life work in a way, or ancestral work. And the deck that came to me was actually this one. It's not very well known. It's called the Tarot of the Secret Forest. So, when it comes to past life work, sometimes I feel like it helps me when I have, again, that connection to nature. I'm trying to not cover the cards with my hands so much, but I have to hold the deck up somehow. And this one, oh, there was like a dried leaf in that. Love that. And this one, it just has this magical aura to it. And a lot of people keep telling me that I look like an elf or a fairy, mostly because my ears are very prominent, probably. And I feel like this deck has that vibe. And sometimes I feel like maybe in a past life, I was some other little fairy or some elf. And this deck really, really tunes me into that feeling. Not all of the cards are very prominent. I think that's why it's not a very famous deck, because some of the cards aren't as flashy. And I feel like flashy decks are usually the ones that get more attention. But look at how magical and beautiful and peaceful it looks. Like, it's just cute, isn't it? I'm trying to hold them in a way so you can see them well. But yeah, there's like a lot of fairies in this deck. There's a lot of mythical seeming scenes. Like, I don't even know what is going on here. There's a huge worm and some kind of cocoon. You know, it just feels like a different world that you dive into. Also, one interesting fact about this is that every card has two sides. So you have the front side, and then you have the back, which is black and white and slightly different. So let me give you a good example of that, maybe. This one is, oh yeah. You know, this one is also a beautiful little bush, and then you turn it around and you get it in black and white. So you have essentially this idea of having two coins, two sides to every coin, you know, one that is more like some alternative black and white world that you get sucked into, and one is just the normal world. Look at this as well. Like, the images are so beautiful, and I wish this deck was more well known, and I wish there was like maybe a bigger version of it. I would probably purchase that. Let me pick up the dried leaves here and put them back in the box with the deck, because otherwise the dried leaves might not be happy. The deck might not be happy. So yeah, I feel like that deck really transports you to a different mythological world, and I love that about it. And that's why I feel like it kind of fits the bill for a past life connection deck, because you just feel like you are being sucked into a parallel universe that you might have existed in at some timeline in this huge strange universe. Let's take a sip. All right. Now, the next one I'm very proud of. The fifth one is your crown jewel superstar, the rare treasure, the pride of your collection. Take your guesses. If you know my channel, maybe you know, because I've done an unboxing of this and I've done a flip through of this as well way back when. Someone commented on that video the other day, and I was like, damn, that was like 5 years ago or something. But it is this one. It is the Amano Tarot. It only exists in Japan, I suppose, which is why you usually have to buy it on eBay, and it ships from Japan, from some antique seller or bookseller or whatever it is. And it is a beautiful deck with very thick cardstock, very colorful cards. And if you do not like or even know the Final Fantasy video game series, this deck might do nothing to you. But to me, because this artist did all of the art for the Final Fantasy series, it just means a lot to me. It is a pip card deck, as you can see. So the numbered cards only have symbols, but that's okay. I can read just fine with it. If you've seen my how to read a pip cards video, this would be in it, because this is the deck that I learned how to read pip cards properly with. And I think it just gives great examples of how you can read the placement of the symbol, how you can look at different things, how you can use your intuition for it. But yeah, look at these beautiful images. And they obviously, because it's the same artist, they have the same vibe as the Final Fantasy series. Look at these swords as well. I love them. Yeah. So this is basically the deck that was most expensive and that I'm probably most proud of owning. Because when I learned that it existed, I was not a huge collector. I was like, I don't know, it's 50 bucks, it's on eBay. Will this even arrive? Am I being scammed? But I bought it anyway. And instead of getting a new shiny deck, I got a used deck. I mean, it is still new and shiny, don't get me wrong. But you know, there's a certain kind of charm to purchasing decks that are not newly printed, that you cannot just easily order off of Amazon and that everyone and their mother has. So that's why it just gives you a different vibe, you have a different connection to that kind of tarot deck where you know, like, not everyone has that. Oh, this card is also beautiful. I want to show you real quick. Look at that. So I don't read with this a lot. I will be completely honest with you nowadays, but I've been thinking about busting it out again because I think for like lighthearted readings, it's really good. I wouldn't use it for very serious shadow work probably because it just doesn't feel like that. But if I want to go into like a magical fantasy Delulu world, this deck is pretty good for that. All right, so let's move on to number 6, your interdimensional communication superstar. If we had visitors, this is the deck you trust to help translate, interpret, and bridge understanding. That is such a crazy question. And I had to think about it not very long because I think it's the Lillifer deck. I don't think I've done an unboxing or anything with this deck. I've shown it on my Instagram quite a lot though. This deck is absolutely beautiful. It also has the gilded decorations, and it's usually a deck that I would not vibe with. I will be honest with you. I will show you the back of the cards because from the decks that you saw, you can tell that I'm more a fan of not realistic art styles, but you know, not so abstract. Let's call it that. But this deck is very abstract. It's very, you know, a lot of strange figurines, huge paint strokes, pastel colors, intense colors like um aqua kind of colors. What do you call that? Watercolors in English. And I kind of adore it, but it still feels like a bit of an alien deck to me. If you know what I mean. I mean, you just have to look at the back. Like honestly, if you showed this to an alien, they would be like, "Yeah, I get it. I get it. I can communicate with you through this." That's what this deck feels like to me. That's why I chose it for this question. Let me show you some more cards because I think this deck deserves some love. I don't know a lot about the creator, honestly. I don't know if they're German or from UK, US. I'm not sure. I got it from a small store here in Berlin. And it just gives vibes, you know? It gives vibes more than it gives you concrete images to work with. You look at it and you're like, yeah, I get the emotion. It's a very emotive deck. So I feel like if you want to communicate with aliens, you're not going to communicate with words. You kind of have to communicate through vibes, through feelings, maybe through emotions. And that's why this deck might just do the trick for that. All right, next one, I have number 7, the Rockstar musical landscape superstar. The deck with a soundtrack, cinematic, moody, and unforgettable. I had a hard time with this one. I wasn't really sure which deck to choose because I'm not a really big music rock star sort of person. I suppose. But I have one that is kind of perfect. This one was gifted to me by a friend as well. And honestly, the only reason that I'm picking it for this is because it has skulls and it's very heavy metal. When I saw like music landscape superstar, I was like, what's the most metal deck that I have? And it's definitely this one. And it's a fun one, honestly. Despite it being full of skulls and skeletons, it's still in some way lighthearted, you know? It's not like a heavy death sort of vibe. It's more like these are normal people and they just happen to be skeletons. They just happen to be dead, you know? And that's why this deck, it has this vibe of stripping everything down to the bone, being completely authentic, being completely honest. And that thin line work makes it just so filigree and interesting and exciting to read with as well. Because the images are simple, but they are intense in some ways. And the fact that it's only red and black is pretty metal, I think. If that's not metal, I don't know what is. Did I even say what it's called? The Flux Arcana Tarot. Sorry. The Flux Arcana Tarot. It's one of the more expensive decks that I own as well because my friend splurged on me. God bless her. And that is the best I have for this question. Maybe I have some other more metal deck than this. Oh yeah, I got to show you the back of the cards because that's also very heavy metal. You know, that could be the symbol of some band. And I know that some artist, the creator of this tarot deck, creates art for the shows of some artist. I always forget his name. Something with M. If you know, you can put it in the comments for everyone to know. But it's some cool musician guy who then wears a vest with a death card on the back, etc. So very cool vibes. All right, let's talk about the eighth one. First, we take a sip. This is your Ancestral Gateway Superstar. Mm, the deck that feels like a doorway to lineage, bloodline, and old wisdom. Let me get it. I did already talk about this with the Secret Forest Tarot, that it kind of feels like that to me. But this one also. Because this one, it's the Legendarium Tarot. And it has, if you know the Witcher series, this deck has Witcher vibes. I'm very sure that it is entirely inspired by the Witcher books and the series, maybe also the Netflix series, and the video games, of course, mostly the games and the books, because the people look like they do in The Witcher. There's some people that you can like very clearly recognize in the deck, but it has a lot of Eastern European folklore. And I did a DNA test, and like 50% of my DNA is Eastern European. So that's why I feel like it connects me to my lineage in some way. Let me show you some cards. Here we have the Queen of Wands. Because all of the minor cards, they are connected to some form of mythical creature. Here you can see the Nine of Swords is a banshee. Uh, Here we have 21, the Great Goddess. Ten of Coins, alchemy. And you just have a lot of, let me find one, a lot of Eastern European mythology. Why is none of it coming up? Well, this is Six of Wands Herald. That's not really Eastern European, but it's very Witcher-like. Oh, you also have Three of Cups Fellowship. That feels a little bit like, Lord of the Rings vibes. Here you have Seven of Coins, Necromance. That's a good example. There's also a Bruxa in here. Here we are. There you are, girl. Eight of Cups is a Bruxa, as they call her in the Witcher series. Oh, then as strength, you have Succubus. So this feels like a very mythological deck, drenched in stories of the old. 13, death is the nithing. Two of Wands is Berserk. Let me just show you the cards a little bit quicker so you don't get bored, because right now I'm just searching out cards to show you. But you see the style is very, I don't know what to call that, medieval, I suppose. Very simple colors, not too bright. And they somehow gave these cards a little bit of a used look. And it just makes me feel like it connects to old times. And especially because, as I said, it has that element of Eastern European mythology. It just has some connection to my ancestry and my ancestors. And it just makes me feel old timey and connected, if that makes sense. So that's my Ancestral Gateway Superstar. I'm really interested what these decks are for you, because I feel like depending on which culture you grew up in or where your DNA sort of connects to, it could be completely different things, obviously. And I think this is one of the most interesting cards for me, because I said that I want the decks to teach me something, and I feel like this deck would teach me about stories, about cultural contexts. And that's exactly what you want with an ancestral connection deck. You wanted to give context to wherever you came from, wherever you feel connected, whatever time or place you feel connected to. And it would be cool if you could share in the comments if you have a deck like that and why you relate to it so much. Because the whole ancestral thing, that's just the most interesting. And even if I'm not from a certain tradition, or a certain culture or a certain place or a certain ethnicity, you can just use tarot decks to learn about that ethnicity, place, culture, context, whatever it is. And I think that's really exciting. So I'm very interesting. If you want to, then think about what is your kind of ancestral connection deck that you have, and drop that in the comments and why. And then I can look at the decks and learn a little bit more about the cultural context that other people, other tarot readers operate out of. All right, let's go on. We're already more than halfway in. We have number 9, your drama queen superstar, the theatrical one, the overreactor, the deck that turns everything into a full prophecy. I love that question. Even though I tend to not dramatize my readings too much, I know some people do that, and it's just not really my MO to look at everything as super dramatic, let's say. But I do have a deck that kind of has the tendency to do that. Let me get it. And this is the deck that my mother has worked with since I was born, forever. I mean, it's not the original, this is the deck. It's not, she still has hers. You know what I mean? This is not her deck, but it is the deck that she uses. So it is, I feel like this is going to hit with a lot of people. It is, as you can recognize, the Thoth Tarot or the Crowley Tarot, whatever you want to call it. Now, let me explain why this deck is a bit of a drama queen to me. First of all, with the small cards, the minor arcana, you have these very intense words written at the bottom. I know they are in German, so you cannot understand them. I mean, here we have a positive one, Tugend, that is, what is the opposite of vice? I forgot. I can only think of vice right now. But you know, the imagery just feels very magical and intense. And I know that my mom often also reads this in a quite intense way. Like when the tower comes up, she gets a little bit worried about it. At least it used to be like that. And this deck just has the tendency to feel like very overbearing. You know, this feeling of, I'm going to show you the intense truth. And if you don't act now, I'm only getting like nice cards now. But if you don't act now, something bad is going to happen. Like here, we have the Five of Cups, we have disappointment. Um, my favorite one is actually the Star because I used to always see that on my mom's book that she had about this deck. Then this one is the Tower. Look at how intense that card is. If you pull that, you're not in the mood to be like, oh, it's not that bad. You're like, everything is burning, everything is terrible. And I find that a little bit amusing about this deck. I'm not too worried about it because that's not how I read tarot, as I said. But whenever I use it, it just gives you like such intense answers and so much to think about because the cards have so much nuance, so many symbols, so much magic behind them that you can think about. And the artwork is just, it speaks to you, you know? It's very like the colors you can analyze, the symbols, the planetary correspondences, because there's planetary symbols on here and also zodiac sign symbols. So there's a lot to it. Here we have failure, seven of discs, which is quite intense. You know, when the Rider Waite seven of discs isn't necessarily failure, it means you need some patience. But here everything is very, very intense. Yeah, so I think this deck is kind of a little drama queen. Sometimes you have to take it down a notch. The intensity of the images sometimes make things sound more dramatic than they are. And you can get a little bit too worried about things that aren't as scary once you look at the nuance of everything. I'm a big fan of nuance, which makes it very difficult for me to be famous on the internet because people don't like nuance nowadays, except for you. That's why you're here. God bless. But yeah, so this deck is my drama queen. That was the ninth one. So we are moving on to the last one. Your slightly unhealthy obsession superstar. The one deck that you think about a little too much. No judgment. This one was also a bit difficult for me because I'm not necessarily obsessed with any of my decks unless I just like them and then I use them. But there is one that I always think about, but whenever I use it, it doesn't quite give me what I need. And you know, just like in relationships with breadcrumbing and love bombing and the whole hot and cold vibe, when you have that, you keep wanting more. You're like, but this time the reading will be great. This time it's going to work. I will show you. It is the Keymaster Tarot. When I bought this, I felt such an intense connection to it. I was like the clarity of it, the fact that a lot of the cards are super symmetrical turned me on. And the clarity of the images, the quality of the cards. Let me just show you. This is the backs. It is a pip card deck. And I felt like the name, you know, the Key Master Tarot. I was like, yes, I am the Key Master. With this deck, I will uncover all of the mysteries of the universe. But you see, it's just such a clear cut images. But with all of that being said, a lot of the times I do not get such good readings with this deck. And that's exactly where my obsession comes from. Think about whether you have a deck like that, a deck that you were like really really excited about in the beginning, and then you keep doing readings with it and they don't quite hit, but you're like, this time it's going to be better. It's like going back to an ex, essentially, which is not something I've ever done. But with tarot decks, I kind of do, I suppose. Yeah. So, as I said, it's a pip card deck, but all of the, let me show you some of the major arcana. Or this is a beautiful court card. Here we have another really cool court card. Ooh, here we have the moon. You see why I like this deck? It has this weird mix of futurism, art deco, and just being a very clear cut sort of style. Help me explain this. I don't even know, but this deck fascinates me. I feel like if I can read with this deck, I can read with anything. Or not, that's not necessarily the feeling. It's like if I can read with this deck, I will have uncovered all of the mysteries of the universe. I think that's more the feeling that I have towards it. Because the imagery is just so cool. And maybe it also gives me a little bit of video game vibes, honestly, now that I think about it. Because I am a sucker for knights. Look at this. Who doesn't want to be like that? I'm always in between wanting to be a fairy princess and wanting to be this. So half of my decks are one and half of my decks are the other. They're like really dramatic and intense and mythological, and the other are like very happy and joyful and light. All right. That's it. I would love if you join the tag. I would be really excited to hear what your cards are. As I said, especially the number 7 interests me. If you're not the type to make videos, I will at least want to know which deck you feel like you have sort of an ancestral connection to. I would love, love, love to know that. And thank you so, so much for watching and for being here. Subscribe if you like this. You can check out my Patreon where I do a lot of journaling prompts, affirmations, tarot readings, everything that is good and that is spiritual and that brings us further in this strange world. I do over there. So I would love to see you there as well. Thank you so, so much. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.